I've got a cart, and I've got a box. So today is the first Sunday of Lent, and always on the first Sunday of Lent, we read this story about what happens right after Jesus gets baptized. He goes out into the wilderness, and this is sort of how he prepares for his ministry, for all the things that he does, all the people that he heals, and all the preaching that he does, and then ultimately when he goes to Jerusalem and is betrayed and dies on the cross and rises again. And so this time of preparation in the wilderness is a really intense time. And one of the reasons that we read it today is because Jesus is out there for 40 days, right? And we celebrate Lent as a season of preparation for the resurrection of Jesus. And Lent is 40 days, minus the Sundays, right? But yeah, we don't need to do math. And so Jesus is out in the wilderness, and it says that he didn't eat for 40 days, which is a long time to not eat anything, right? And the devil comes to him and tempts him with these temptations. And he says, if you are the Son of God, then turn this rock into a loaf of bread, right? So I'm not the Son of God, but I do have a rock. And I think that I'm going to, I thought about being a stage magician. I could be Father James Deany, the world's worst magician. And so I'm going to do a magic trick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this rock in this absolutely empty box. Do you want to come look and see if this box is empty? Caroline? You want to come look? You can look. Just don't look over there. Look over here. All right. So perfectly, absolutely empty box, you can see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the rock in here. And I don't really know any magic words, but I'm going to, do some things here and shake it around a little bit, blow on it, and wow. Turned it into it. Okay, I know. I've not impressed Caroline. So, that was a trick, right? Obviously, not even a very good one. And if you really want to see, I've got like a whole contraption in here, and it took me like 10 minutes and all of the tape that was in the office. But because it's a magic trick, I'm not really a magician. I can't really turn, a rock into bread. But we read these stories about Jesus, how Jesus did do some pretty extraordinary things, but it wasn't magic. Right? So Jesus turned water into wine, we read a few weeks ago. That's kind of the same kind of thing, transformation of one thing to another thing. Jesus took loaves of bread and fish, and he fed 5,000 people with them. But what do you think is the difference between what the devil was trying to get Jesus to do in the wilderness and what Jesus did in other parts of the gospel? What's the difference between the sort of transformation that God brings into our lives and the sort of changes that God can do for us and what we might call magic? Anybody know? Magic is the attempt to control nature for your own gain, for your own purposes, for your own enrichment. And so when the devil came to Jesus to tempt him, what the devil was doing was tempting Jesus to use the power of God to twist that power for Jesus' own purposes, for Jesus' own enrichment, for his own power, to use the power of God to enslave the nations of the world, because the devil brought him up to the mountain and showed him all the nations, that all of this could be yours. to use the power of God to show off, to glorify himself, to gratify his own needs and desires. And so the devil tempted Jesus to use that power in that way, and Jesus rejected that. And the difference is that Jesus used his power to transform water into wine for the enjoyment of other people. He didn't really even want to do that, remember? But he did it because his mom asked him, and it was for a party. He saw a bunch of hungry people, and he multiplied bread and fish for them to feed them. Jesus' power is used for others. Jesus transforms lives for others, for the lifting up of the whole world. And so that's the difference between God's power and what Satan was trying to tempt Jesus to do. And the wonderful thing, as we prepare for Easter and as we live through this sort of wilderness 40 days of preparation, we can think about the ways that God transforms our lives, not to glorify us, not to even control us or manipulate us, but God transforms our lives so that we can transform other people's lives, so that we can give of ourselves to the world, and then that gift keeps going out. And so we think about the ways that we come here and we are fed with spiritual food, and then we take that food out into our neighborhood and our communities and our workplaces and our schools, and we feed other people, and we invite them to see not our own glory, but we invite them to see the glory and the power of God, and we invite them to see the love and the mercy of God, not to manipulate anybody, but to set people free. That's what Jesus is all about. Amen.